All right, all right, all right. We are back, everybody. It is time to talk about FIFA World Cup 2026, brand activations, fan festivals, all things FIFA Global Event Intelligence. You have your girl, Jayme Washington, and I have, guess who's with me?
Yeah.
Andrew.
Hello, everybody, again. Welcome back to episode 2. It's Andrew Bagley, Because Football Media. Great to see you again, Jayme. Excited to knock out a couple more of these cities here on our list out of the 16 World Cup host cities we'll see this summer.
Awesome, awesome. I am so excited as well. We received so much feedback inside of emails regarding that this was coming, that we're talking about these things, and really, really excited for our subscribers and those that follow us on various different social media platforms. I live on LinkedIn, and we know Andrew's over there killing it on Instagram. And so we're excited to talk a little bit more. We're going to try to get through 3 more host cities, and we're going to do the good, the bad, and the ugly. Andrew, that's what we're
Mm-hmm.
doing, right?
Yeah, we've got some awesome cities on this list, but yeah, we'll definitely be picking through the things to be aware of, on the soccer side, and of course, you'll let us know what to look for in that activation and what the opportunities are. But yeah, 3 cities that I had a great time in. I'm excited, so I'm ready to jump in.
Love it, love it, love it, love it. So, as you guys know, Andrew and myself, we come very prepared. This is more of giving you more of an event intelligence on my side, and Andrew is what I would call my global activation field producer. He is more boots on the ground, filming, speaking to what I would call the client, which is the fan, and finding out what they want, how they move, what they desire, what they like, what they don't like. And then he's able to bring that intel back to me or someone
Mm.
like me who's inside of experiential marketing, because then I would take the information that, what we call it, intel, that Andrew provides, and that allows someone like me to tell my client where we are going to activate, where inside of the corridor is the demand surge, and while the fan is inside of the corridor, what is it that they want? What can we provide? Is it shade from the sun? Do they need water? Do they need more access to Wi-Fi? Do they need access to maybe a little something to eat? How can the brand show up, fulfill the need, provide a core memory that it was a great experience, to, the goal is to make sure that they have an increase on what I call the LTV, which is the lifetime value. How can we extend the lifetime value of a customer for a client by them having a great experience? So, on this episode, there are 3 very different host cities,
There we
and
go.
we got it. We got it. We're going to talk about San Francisco Bay Area, New York, New Jersey area, and Atlanta, also known as ATL. Today is going to be a masterclass different because of the operational complexity. And you all know, if you see me looking down, that's me looking at my notes. No, we are not bots. We are not bots. Okay, so I'm going to kick it off with a little bit of intel that I have from San Francisco. As for people who may not know, San Francisco Bay Area is actually known as the tech country, and it is almost head to toe with Silicon Valley right now. San
Mhm.
Francisco is really big with tech. But it was fascinating to me, Andrew. I want to get right into it. Was the Fan Festival for San Francisco? It's in multiple areas,
Mhm.
and they also raised by themselves about $8.8 million, and they called it a transit grant to make sure that the fans were flowing to the various different fan festival activation areas. I'd love to know from you, when you visited San Francisco, like, tell us what it was like. Like, tell us
Mhm.
all about your experience, and then we'll jump into, like, more questions about Levi Stadium.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I'll do my best here, right? As some of our listeners who maybe checked in after episode one might know, or just kind of clarify again through Because Football Media, we're really looking at what this game of soccer means to people, obviously using the more global term of football, but what it means to people, and then sharing those stories of who it matters to, right? So whether that is a region, like I would call the Bay Area in this case, or particular cities within that, whether it's San Francisco, San Jose, where Levi Stadium is, Oakland, and so many communities in between. And so I've been visiting all these World Cup host cities. We've been to 13 so far. I think the Bay was like number 10 that I
Wow.
visited. So yeah, I think the big thing there is you have to be aware of these little bit different identities that again, the Bay Area is a huge region. Um, and yes, so like you've got Silicon Valley in the tech area, which is kind of like a lot of those people are based in San Francisco and between there and San Jose. You have Oakland or the East Bay, and so you have a lot of different flavors. So I think that depending on, as you mentioned with this fan fest, it's kind of like that decentralized approach. It might feel a little different in each place. But I know from a soccer perspective, I actually just left a comment here on a post I'd seen about the Bay Area community is like, I don't want to pick favorites of all these places I've been to. Each city has their own positives, the good, bad, and the ugly, like we're going to talk about, Jayme. But like the Bay Area has so much awesome grassroots soccer going on, and I think
Ooh.
people are really like they take a lot of initiative, they take a lot of agency in whether it's like pickup soccer for adults or even it's like classes and lessons or, youth programs. There's a lot going on in the Bay Area. So I think you have to kind of like, be aware of that going into it. But you got to be able to connect with like the right type of culture there. And I think that in general, the Bay Area is a place that is like it's a cool place, right? Not to look down on some other cities where it might not look at as cool necessarily, but it's a different cool than like a Miami cool, than an LA, than even like a New York, factor in that sense. I think you have people who are very creative, intelligent, and you do have, Silicon Valley's going on, but then you also have really like grassroots creativity and art and so there's just a lot going on in a relatively small region.
Okay. Oh my goodness. And we have a little bit of a video for our listeners. Can you tell us a little bit more about what we're seeing here?
Absolutely. Yep. This is we're gonna call the behind the scenes, everybody. All right. You guys get the director's cut, the raw cut, let's say the pre-cut actually with some of these, right? But I think this is in Oakland, an area called Jack London. This is neighborhood sports club. And I think that, this is like my first official soccer stop when I was in the Bay. And it kind of brings together everything I mentioned. You got neighborhood sports club, which has this like creative apparel, fashion line, but then they also are opening this new facility that has a little mini soccer field. They're going to have their store on site. They've got a little cafe in the trailer. It's such a diverse community of people. And like they're kind of combining this really cool creativity and fashion and everybody like expressing themselves with just getting together through soccer, right? So they've got a lot of community programs when they're doing pickup or, even lessons for adults, right? In classes and then other groups use their space or get connected with them. So I think like those are the type of groups that really showed me, being a first timer visiting the Bay Area of just what's kind of going on there. And then like it's like everybody it's similar and we're going to get to Atlanta, but it's similar to Atlanta in a sense where like it's a big community, but it's the perfect size where it's very interconnected. So I feel
Hmm.
like, you go and you meet one person, they're like, oh, did you talk to this guy? And I'm like, oh yeah, well, I'm actually going to connect with them. And, or like, there's just a lot going on. So people are really plugged in together. There's a lot of different opportunities for soccer. So, and overall, like a really welcoming place. And they're really intentional and celebrate like diversity. It just is a diverse place. You got people from all over the world. And they're like, that's very much a part of the identity. And they're very proud of that.
I love that. I love that. I love that. So when someone comes in from a different country, what are two things that they can expect, Andrew? Let's say if they're flying in.
Mhm.
So if they're flying in from Paris. What are two things they can expect in the San Francisco Bay Area. 2 good things. What can they
2 good
expect
things.
just flying in? 2 good things. Mhm.
Alright, the good things, I feel like given that is an area where, you have Silicon Valley, it's like such a well-to-do area. You can if you're like a luxury traveler, you can find a lot of experiences like that. You can also, maybe add a few days on your itinerary around to travel throughout the rest of kinda Northern and Central California, the coast, and to Napa Valley and all these places. But I think you're gonna really just feel that people will I think they're really gonna show out, and it's gonna be like a very good party atmosphere. It's just finding where's the right place for you to do that, right? Maybe you're gonna be going to games in the stadium and you're gonna stay around like the San Jose area, which is gonna be a little bit more of like a low key feeling. If you want more of like that energy, and more of kind of that creativity going on, you're gonna want to go to San Francisco area or maybe parts of Oakland where you're like really around the community. So I
Mhm.
think that's one. And then I'd say depending on your comfort, like in general, there's a pretty solid public transit system. Like I didn't rent a car. I was there for like 5 days, and some things take a little longer, but you have some light rail, you have some trams, you got, I took some buses. You've got a pretty solid metro system as far as the US goes. Now, it gets a little trickier when you're in the area of the stadium of Levi's, but there
Okay.
is like regional train, so between that and then, using your rideshare options, should be covered. But I think that's something to keep in mind too. There's pretty good public transit service from the airport. So if you fly into San Francisco, or San Jose has a smaller airport as well. It's actually right by PayPal Park, the Earthquakes, the MLS team stadium. So I think
Okay.
those would be the two of, where you want to find the party. And then logistically, you'll be able to go pretty far with the public transit. So I would say, have that in mind to kind of complement some of the rideshare options.
Okay, I love that. I love that. So you all, which makes sense from the intel that we received, that around 8.8, that $8.8 million grant, the San Francisco Bay Area decided to put that into transit. They wanted to make sure that those that were coming to the host city, that they experienced San Francisco in a way that was free forming, and they didn't necessarily need to come out of their pocket to get to point A to point B. So if they wanted to go, to a wonderful bakery, or if they wanted to go to a local, a seafood shop, they were able to do all of these things while they're there and not have to nickel and dime the way, unfortunately, some other people are going to have to do at other host cities. And I like that. Also, they're using a lot of technology, we've heard,
Hmm.
with the games as well. There's going to be a lot of interaction happening, in that area with more technology. They've also integrated AI in a lot of things for the fans, what we've been hearing here. So I do believe that those that go to San Francisco, once they arrive, whichever fan festival site, I'm gonna get on that one, but whichever fan festival site they do arrive to, or if they also have the opportunity to go to Levi Stadium, I do believe it's going to be a great experience. I really do.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of options depending on what you're into. I think again, speaking of the diversity of the area, there's gonna be a
Mhm.
lot going on, but they're gonna enjoy themselves. It's gonna be a good party there, and really celebrate the beautiful game.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I agree. So that is the good. We're gonna move right on to the bad. Tell you what I don't like. There is not a master corridor. You have to have one corridor in order to be successful. I preach it. I teach it. I'm paid to create it. Your master corridor is when that person lands in your city to wherever the destination is. And that, for right now, we're going to say Levi Stadium.
Mhm.
And I'm not sure if I even have a picture, but I will say what the intel that I do have is they are planning around 30 plus activation, well, fan festival areas in the San Francisco area. That is not the best brand decision at all. I'm not sure who approved it, and whomever approved it definitely was not a marketer, definitely
Mm.
didn't have a master's degree in marketing or knew anything about marketing. Yeah, I said it, and I don't care. I for even when I think about the work that I do, with Coca-Cola, the work that we're doing now with Frito-Lay, I can't imagine trying to activate in 30 touch points. 30 different touch points plus San Francisco is in the same bucket as Boston, Massachusetts, that the fan festival is not near Levi Stadium. So, Andrew, I'm gonna kick it on back over to you. Did you know that the fan festivals were like these 30 plus little, I don't know what you call it, nodules,
Mhm.
and that they're nowhere near Levi Stadium?
Yeah, I think that was with the stadium in general. I'd even had some people say to me how, you know, it's generally the home of the 49ers, right? And they just
Mhm.
hosted the Super Bowl there. So in that sense, they're coming off of, their host committee was doing the Super Bowl and the World Cup, in the same 6 months or so. So maybe that led to some of the dropping of the ball or there, right, that you're referring to with those. Because thinking of that approach, like from a fan perspective, even that's like a lot of overwhelm of choice of like, where am I going to go? And then delivering it that, right, activating it, like what kind of experience are you getting 30 different places? Um,
Right.
in general, Levi's does feel and San Jose feels like quite different and a little bit
Mhm.
isolated from what you would consider like the cultural heart and the population heart of the area, which is San Francisco, right? And then even parts of like the East Bay, it's really all around the Bay. And then San Jose's kind of at the bottom. And it's nice again, speaking to like the type of fan, the type of traveler you are, you can have a really comfortable stay there and have everything you want, but you don't get that same, it's a little more spread out. It's a little more like suburban. You don't get the same city feeling as you would in different neighborhoods of San Francisco, where it's like walking around and you're feeling that vibe. So yeah, you make a great point with like Boston in a sense of the stadium feeling kind of set apart in a way. I would say it's still more accessible than we talked about in Boston and even still like than some of the other cities. Maybe one of the benefits is that, San Jose does have a lot of people, but it's not the same as like being in San Francisco with that existing population. So it could be helpful. I think another one, if we're talking about the bad, is just like it's not an affordable place in general, mostly to
Mm,
live, but also to visit. So if you're going to compare it to, I would say it's probably in that top tier of like your LA, New York, Bay Area, maybe Miami is probably like the least cost effective places for fans to be like day to day, right? So I think that's another one that, people need to keep in mind and factor in.
okay. That is really good to know. And it's interesting that you bring up the the cost, because another intel that we received was that the hotels haven't they're not fully booked throughout, because that's what they had anticipated. But unfortunately, when you have hotels that this time last year was 300,
Mhm.
400% lower this time last year, and people are smarter.
Mhm.
So I think coming out of the games, what we are going to see, and I'm not sure if it's going to be an issue between two sponsors, Marriott and Airbnb, but I do believe coming out of the games, we're going to see Airbnb will have made more revenue than Marriott, because people have gotten really smart with how they want to spend their money. And I think that that is so important to say, because it's not that they don't have the resources to spend, it's they are choosing how they spend their money. And so when they look at a hotel and it's, okay, this room is $600 a night, it's, we're traveling as with 7 people, we
Mhm.
need 4 rooms, we can get an Airbnb, hire a private chef at that price because we need it for, let's just say, 10 days,
Yeah.
instead of spending almost, let's just say, $20,000 at a hotel, why not spend maybe 5,000 on a nice Airbnb, then spend maybe 3 grand hiring a personal chef. You're living the life of luxury, and then, hey, what? Pay $400 to have someone come and clean midway? You're still making out better. But on a corporate side, that's going to be very interesting with
Mm.
contract negotiations because Marriott has been a sponsor of the games for years, and now,
Interesting.
yeah, and now Airbnb is one of the sponsors. So that's going to be very interesting because, I think about McDonald's and Wagyu. So there is a company called Wagyu, and they wanted to sponsor the FIFA World Cup this year in 2026. And supposedly FIFA said yes, but then McDonald's had the first right of refusal and said
Mm.
no because we sell ground beef as well. That's up for interpretation, but that is what they said, and, FIFA had to backtrack and tell the company Wagyu, and I guess they're like a local, we don't have them up here in the East Coast,
Okay.
but I guess it's like a restaurant. I should have looked it up before we started, but I didn't know I was gonna talk about it, but nonetheless, yeah, it's, I think they something that they do, but nonetheless, they were told no. They were told, "No, absolutely not." And so I'm interested to see, what happens with Marriott and what
Mm.
happens with Airbnb come this time next year or during the Women's
Yeah.
World Cup. We'll see. We'll
Yeah.
see what happens. What's the walk going to be like for the fans, Andrew? What is that looking like, as an experience from just going to Levi Stadium? Do we have any intel on what that's
Yeah.
going to look like?
I would say so. I think one thing that I even got from people, like I was saying, it's the 49ers play there, and not only does it feel like you're a little bit away from everything, but people are saying that like something to the effect that, I mean, aesthetically, it's not a super pleasing. Like I went, and I was like, is it like what? Like it's looked like it's not finished. Like it looks like the interior of like a circus tent because it's just all these like poles and stuff on the outside. Like it just, so that's
Mm,
a personal opinion. Okay.
okay. Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah. Yeah, yeah.
tied into that, I brought that up to somebody and they're saying like, yeah, like it all had to do with they kind of just like rushed this decision, put the stadium in soon as they could. And, you know, on a regular day for the 49ers, like traffic is a nightmare. Now that's something to be in
Ooh,
mind. So like even if you Uber or something, I don't know how close you're going to be able to get to the stadium. You're likely not going to get a drop off right there. There's some lots I'm seeing, and there is it's like the local train, like high speed option in the area, which I want to say is, maybe about a 15-minute walk. So you get dropped off, you can see the stadium and you can walk there. So that's something that will be helpful to people. Is having that access. But again, that's more limited to like if you're coming from the San Jose area. So if you're coming from a San Francisco, if you're coming from the East Bay or Oakland, like you're gonna have to either get a ride or take that local regional train line to wherever you can connect in San Jose at like their main station. And it's just like some of it flows because I went both
mhm.
ways. Some of it flows well, and then some it's like, all right, you might need to walk a little bit or have a car from place to place. So, it's I think you do have that public transit option, which will help. But I think, like in the case of many of our stadiums here, just pack some extra time into your day, getting there and then leaving. And if you're depending on a ride share, I think even with like the supply in the area, you're probably gonna have to wait a while to be able to get back to the city wherever you need to go. So not ugly situation, but not a great one even for the day to day, from what I've been told.
Ooh, wow. Okay. That's Okay, wow. Well, I also just for the brands that are activating, just a list. I just want to run out a list to you guys of the tech companies or large enterprise brands that are just in that area. You've got Salesforce, Google, Airbnb, which we just talked about, and Visa. And all of these companies were also part of the original host committee pitch.
Mm,
So when I see those types of names and I hear that they are part of a pitch, to me that means that this is more of like a corporate hospitality. They want to make sure that their stakeholders, they'll their employees are a part of this. So if you are a brand and you are activating in the San Francisco area, you also have to look at the games. So you have to look at the fans that are coming to the games, but then you also have to look at the tier 1 and tier 2 because every all those names that I just named except Google, they're all tier 1, tier 2 sponsors. So you also have to look at the corporate level and you have to activate for them as well. And that is tough. And I'm going to tell you why. Because when you have to have an activation for a corporate C suite, they don't like compression. They want to be far away from crowds. Oh my goodness. That's why they go in the back.
mm,
That's why they go through the back doors. That's why they don't mind going through the kitchen. People are like, why you want to go through the kitchen? That's why they don't mind going through the warehouse service elevator. Why? Because they don't want to be around the crowds. They don't want to be around, all no, 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 no. That's not them. So if you are a brand and you are activating in San Francisco, the last thing I'm going to say about the bad is you're going to have to activate, pick one spot and pick one audience, and that is how you will succeed because you've got two audiences that want two different things.
mhm,
You've got the corporate hospitality audience, they want exclusivity, which San Francisco can provide, but they also want, with exclusivity, they want small numbers. They want tranquility. They already work in a high impact, environment. So you'd have to, that's more of like a dinner that's only for 20 people, 40 people, a small, small, small activation. Whereas you've got the fans and you've got, you know, they have a wonderful Asian population over in San Francisco. They want the culture. They want to, everyone, oh
mhm.
my goodness, that's what they want. They want to be around the people. So the brands that are going to do well, Andrew, in that area are going to be the ones that are going to pick at least one fan festival site, not all 30, and going to pick one audience and just speak to that audience. You can't speak to everyone. You're going to speak to that audience and you will win. That's what I got. I only got one ugly. I only got
Alright.
one ugly. You want me to go? You want me to go
You
for it?
got it. I'll wrap up with I got one ugly in mind. Just you got it, Jamie.
Okay, okay. My one
I love the Bay, but everybody's got their spots.
yes, but it's beautiful.
It
I
is
am not
unreal.
taking I am not taking I'm not taking away from San Francisco Bay Area. What I'm saying is the San Francisco Bay Area that people are coming to is not going to be the same. Same as Boston. It's not going to be the same. All these host cities, it's not going to be the same because they've had to change the way their ecosystem
Mm.
works and runs because of FIFA. So, yes, maybe we'll do something nice and we'll talk really, really all nice things about San Francisco one day. Okay, so one last thing, which is the one ugly. The one ugly is budget. San Francisco, like I mentioned, they did receive an $8.8 million grant. They were waiting on about $51 million in funding from the government that did not arrive when they needed it to.
Mm.
And they also, for whatever reason, weren't able to raise the money locally. Therefore, it has severely place their operational plans into a severe delay. And this is, coming out of the Santa Clara area where they were saying that it's under plan, but when you don't have the resources and you don't have the funding, everything just sits on a piece of paper.
Mhm. Yeah.
If you don't have the money, what are you gonna do? So it's unfortunate that they're not sure if everything that they have planned is going to be able to be fully executed. So that's the ugly with the match starting on June 13th. What do you have to say about that one, Andrew? Let you wrap
Yeah,
it up.
for my ugly side, and actually, I would put it in the. I didn't touch on real quick the matchups. I'm not putting this in the ugly, but there's not necessarily like a marquee big name team that's going to come through.
Okay.
So even people are saying like there that hey, we didn't get some of the big ones, but on the flip side, it might help with ticket price a little bit, and that's not So I'm not trying to throw shade at all these countries, but there's not necessarily like a marquee matchup. I think they
Okay.
will have a knockout, and the U.S. will have a chance to play there in a knockout, but that's part of it. I wouldn't put that in even the bad category, to be fair. But on the ugly side, although I love the Bay, I think for people visiting and planning things, there's certainly a security element to be worried about, and I'm usually try to be the last guy to say things. But even people that I met were like, "Hey, if you have a car, for example, like it's just so common for your car to be broken into, right? So like, don't have anything in your car. That might
Mm,
be something to keep in mind. Maybe don't rent a car. Stick to your public transit. That like you were saying that like you pretty much have everything in the Bay Area. You have this center of power and wealth that is Silicon Valley, and you're going to have all the VIPs and the exclusive access that comes with that. And you also have our country and society's biggest challenges when it comes to extreme poverty, the people who are unhoused, addiction, and like you see that in some places around the Bay in a very visible way. And so you have to be aware and do your research of like where to avoid and where to go. I still would not take that as a reason not to go because I think there's so many positives and you have an awesome experience. But even from people that are there, this is not just like reading it online in the headlines and fear mongering in the media. It's like, person to person, people
mhm.
sharing those concerns and stuff. So I think that's something to keep in mind as well. So that would be my one ugly for the Bay.
Okay. Okay. I love that. I love that. All right. So New York, New Jersey.
Yep.
All right. So high stakes. It is also the most complex when it comes to fan distribution. We're gonna talk about that. Um I would say my good for them, I've got 2. I mean, one with which you probably gonna have the same one. The World Cup final is there.
Hmm.
So
Big,
that's huge
huge.
because, here on the East Coast, for those that don't know, I live in Boston, but here on the East Coast, we can never have a Super Bowl. There will never be a Super Bowl, at least not into the near future here in the East Coast because it's always cold in January, February, whenever it's
Miami's our only hope. Miami's our only hope on that one.
Miami is the only one. Most of the times, the Super Bowl is always in a warm state, right, Andrew?
Yep.
It's okay. Just
Yep.
want to make sure. Yeah, you guys know I'm on the corporate
Hmm.
side. Andrew's my person when it comes to all things sports. So, but this is the closest when you hear a final being played in the East Coast. I mean, if I was a brand and I have sponsored FIFA as well as if I'm a host city, I would also, it's imperative that my brand show up at the stadium. I mean, MetLife, I need to be attached to everything MetLife. Like you see MetLife, my name Coca-Cola will be right there. MetLife, Frito-Lay, everything, because the whole world is going to be watching that. Like you're going to have all 8 billion watching, streaming, watching. So that's my good. Go ahead. You tell me which one yours is, Andrew.
Good. Yeah, I think you have like incredible diversity, which on the flip side, when you're looking at like telling stories and picking an audience, somewhat similar to Miami when we talked about in the first episode, yeah, it can be a challenge because it's like you can't just go generic, right? It's also I feel like a place that just has like such a passion for the game too. Like there's so much going on, whether it's in youth, adult, college. There's two professional teams in MLS. There's multiple women's professional teams. So there's so much going on in a soccer scale in the area. And then I think the good thing too is like you have New York and you have like the city, but then you've also got North Jersey where technically it's going to be. And a lot of that extends to there. So a lot of opportunities. And I think when it comes to the Fan Fest, they initially, I think, had planned like one big one, and then that was going to be around Liberty State Park, I think, where Statue of Liberty is. And I think for like, it's not confirmed, but what I saw, like logistical issues, they kind of pivoted. So there's going to be, I think you'll have the exact details, I'm sure, Jayme, but like a handful based on the city and different times in the tournament, which I think is going to fit better because I think between the boroughs in New York, in North Jersey, you have areas that do have a little bit of their own distinct personality. So I think it's hard to serve not only the scale of people, but then those different, vibes, let's say, right, with one event.
Mhm. Absolutely. Absolutely, absolutely, and I do feel that that area is very inclusive, and they will immerse themselves into the culture, which will allow the brands to kind of piggyback on the energy of the fans, and that will bring that core memory, which will allow the fan to have that good experience with the brand. Like the episode we filmed our last episode when you were talking about you had gone somewhere and the beer by the time you got the beer was
Mhm.
hot.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
In Germany, they couldn't keep up.
they
Yeah.
couldn't keep up. So they were having a good time.
Yes.
They were having a good time to the
We
point.
all were having a good time, Jayme. I was included in that.
That's right. You and everyone else was having a good time. Good time to the point they couldn't keep the beer cold. That's a story. That is
Yeah.
a story.
Yeah.
And I see that happening, in the New York, New Jersey area because it's the precipice of the games. I mean, it is the World Cup final being played there. So, they are in a good place, but I'm just going to pivot to the bad. There is no parking.
Mm.
Parking has completely been banned.
Which is wild. That's crazy. I mean, a good
It's
is that in the city, the public transit's great. We'll talk. I'll share my part, but I don't understand. Maybe you have better intel on your side. I don't understand. I've been to MetLife a few times and parked. I don't love the experience. It's
no.
not awful. It's not very good in the first way, even getting to park. So I can't imagine. Yeah, I'm really curious about what they have planned for this.
Yes, yes. So the intel that we received was I don't know. They claimed that it was because of security, but originally, I don't know if you remember, it was set for about 100. First it was like $100 to
Hmm.
ride round trip.
Yeah.
Then they bumped it up to $150, and then big FIFA, like I always try to make sure that everybody knows there's three entities, I guess we could say, of FIFA. There is FIFA, like I call FIFA International, so that's FIFA.com. And then when they have a host country that wins, then that country becomes their own FIFA. So
Hmm.
like for us, it's they call it FIFA USA, Canada, Mexico. So that's the middle FIFA. And then you have little FIFA, which is the host cities. And then like
Hmm.
you have like all these cities. So like, there's a FIFA Boston, there's a FIFA New York, New Jersey, there's a FIFA San Francisco, FIFA Atlanta. Those are what we call little FIFAs. Even in the meetings that we have behind closed doors, that is how you well, that's what we say. It was like, "Is that big FIFA or little FIFA?" Like,
Yeah. It's a
who
lot to
said
keep
that? Was it
straight.
little
Yeah. It's
FIFA or
definitely a
big
lot to
FIFA?
keep straight.
Yeah, we have to keep the FIFA straight. So I say all of that because little FIFA So New York, New Jersey was able to have these different pricings. And then Big FIFA complained that they were very concerned with the affordability because we have heard, look at this, that the stadium can hold 82,500 fans. And to date, they have sold 76,800 tickets. So out of 76,800 tickets, Big FIFA was concerned of the affordability, that not only did people have to buy these tickets, which I will say the most expensive ticket was sold at for this particular final game at $2.3 million. $2.3
Boggles the mind.
million dollars.
Yeah, I don't know how that's real.
So, yep. So somebody bought it. So with that being said, yes, that's my bad, and then I have one ugly. But what do you think about the cancellation of the parking, Andrew?
Yeah, I just don't understand it. Maybe they thought it was like a big security issue or something. I don't know. Like I said, I've had the experience, I've done it and I don't love it, but like it's fine. And honestly, I've tried coming from the city, like they're gonna say they also said they're gonna shut down Penn Station like for the
Yep.
games, which again, I don't understand how you do that when that's a main hub for like the average person to do that, which I also don't enjoy that experience. I tried to get a they do like buses, you can get like a train I think, but I don't honestly know how the train system works there. There is a train station close to the stadium. I don't understand it, and I don't know how it's a better idea. Like, imagine you're coming from somewhere where it's not necessarily the city. Like, what's your hub that you go to get one of these shuttle buses or trains if you're coming from the south or east? I don't know. So yeah, I'd put that in the ugly because I can't fathom that. The bad I think is like it's a city that's just so used to, and this is a weird one, like on the flip side, it's a city that's just so used to like being the center of things, maybe not a Super
Mhm.
Bowl in recent years, right? But like I think that it makes it hard to like stand out. And I know that even within the soccer world, like Germany's gonna have their like German football house, something like that, like an activation for I think a few weeks or so where it's like that's gonna be the place. I imagine that's in partnership with Adidas and every global soccer league from Spain to England, like they all have a headquarters in New York, and a lot of that makes sense. But there's just always so many activations and things going on in New York that I think like you really have to do something to stand out. Um, and I think that, but there's at the same time, there's enough grassroots stuff going on in the city where I think people are
Mhm.
gonna kind of make their own thing as well. So kind of like Bay Area, where we talked about a little bit of like the status of the fan of the consumer, like what they're going for, you're going to have quite a mix there. So yeah, I think that's kind of my bad is you just got to like kind of bring your A game to it to whatever you're going to try to activate, and you really got to that's the challenge I would say.
Okay. No, I agree. I agree. And if I was activating in New York, I would, you take your lemons and you make lemonade with this no parking policy. The brands that are going to show up and show up well are the ones that are going to understand. Even like you mentioned, Penn Station being closed, we were told for 4 hours before the game, but also with this no parking, I'm not sure what New York and New Jersey, what they are planning as far as transportation to get 76,800 fans out of this area back to wherever their hotels are. But the brands that we're gonna see that are gonna show up, if they understand that this is a gap in the fan experience, and if they can step in, I would love to see something like Virgin Atlantic, you know, I would love to see, because they are a competitor of Qatar. Like, if there was a competitor brand, okay, this is what I'm gonna say this, we're gonna move on. If a competitor brand could see this gap and, like, rent buses
Yes.
from Connecticut
Yeah.
and, like, put their logo. So like if Virgin Airlines just put all of their logos
100%. 100%.
on like 40 buses and just pulled them up to MetLife Stadium and just literally was like, "We are here to take you back to your hotel." And every seat in the bus had like a 10%, 15% coupon for a ticket to
Mhm.
anywhere in the world, riding on Virgin. Ooh, wait.
It's brilliant. It's brilliant.
Yeah. Now
Yeah.
see,
And
gotta give
talk
credit.
about and then when I think about that, not only of like, you talk about that lifetime value and creating that bond with your the fan, with the consumer, or like
Yes.
obviously that would be something you remember forever. Like, yeah, like Virgin saved me a massive headache for one of the most fun days of my life. I think too of all the free advertising because that's going so viral. And then you think of all the people sharing their own videos in the bus, just have like a hashtag or like tag Virgin or whatever, and like all the content that could just be created easily. Imagine a bus full of soccer fans, doing their thing and then getting to show up the smooth. Like to me, it's like a no brainer. Be and like you said, it's a great way to compete without officially competing with some of our the the main sponsors. So, but yeah, love that idea.
Yes, yes, absolutely, absolutely. And we'll see what happens, but if a competing brand has a CMO that is thinking of how to enter into the games arena without being an official sponsor, that would be the way to do it. And there's other ways as well, but that would be the way to do it because we're not just seeing this for just MetLife, as Andrew and I have talked about. We see this dwell time, an inconvenience to the fans. Who wants to stay in for 4 hours? Who wants to walk for an hour? Like we talked about the last time from Miami. Who wants to park their car and walk a whole hour? Who wants to do that? And I'm gonna just funnel right in, rip the Band-Aid off to my ugly the intel we have received that New York and New Jersey canceled all fan festival activations.
I think that they had initially done that and they've since figured it out. I think they're doing five. I think like every borough is getting one, although it's kind of limited time periods. So I would say one of the challenges here in my ugly is that with it being such a massive city, a diverse city that loves a game, that unfortunately they couldn't get, every day, every game type of thing, which again, we've
Mhm.
seen most cities, most little FIFAs struggle with doing that. So New York is doing I know like, for example, they're doing one in Queens and that's going to be the first like 2.5 weeks of the tournament. Then they'll have one in like, they're going to have one in Long Island. They have a Brooklyn, but it's like for a week or so. Right. And it's just certain games. So
Y
yeah, again, it's not as robust as maybe we would hope and that fans hope, but again, I kind of think that speaks to like there's so many levels that people are going to be enjoying it at. So, you know, there is that piece. So I think that's based on my intel and some of the conversations I've had. That's what I've seen. But again,
Mhm.
yeah, not as you know talk about hey, we're gonna have the World Cup final, and yet unfortunately they've had to made some uh let's say trying to think of the word they've had to humble their plans a little bit, right? They've had to maybe be a little bit more reasonable in this once in a lifetime thing, which is kind of a bummer.
Well, I disagree, Andrew, at their plans because Rockefeller Center Fan Village in
Mm,
Manhattan, the Jersey Fan Hub at Sports Illustrated Stadium, and then the fan zones, like you
okay.
mentioned, Queens and the Bronx and that. No, that is not a fan festival. That is little hubs like the Boys and Girls Club. Like,
Okay.
no.
Tell us how you really feel, Jamie. Come on.
I am about the fans and the fans experience. New York and New Jersey this is an injustice, and they're trying to they're still trying to label it as a fan
Mm.
festival. It is not. Especially if someone is expecting to go to, Disney World and their parents take them to the state park. Not the same, not the same. Maybe the same price because they've jacked the price up, but not the same. So, Rockefeller Center, like, we all know Rockefeller Center,
Mhm.
where the ice skating rink is. We know that beautiful area in New York. I've been there, it's gorgeous. No, that is not what a true activation should look like is so they get an F in my book. Do better, New York, New Jersey. If the games ever come back to you, do better. And you guys had Andrew on your side.
I know. Well, I'm saying, I might be there for some of those. I hope I can experience a tournament in New York and maybe one of those, whatever the exact word is, fan hubs, villages, whatever. So, if people want to see how it goes, give me a follow on Instagram. You can follow along for some of the we'll see the reality on the ground.
I love that. I love that. And I do hear that there is going to be, I think like a passport, like a little passport that they're going to give people to go to the sites. So, yes, please let us know how it turns out.
I think Fat
And
Joe's doing a concert. That's pretty cool. That doesn't take it out of your ugly bucket, Jamie. Come on, lean. You're just leaning back. Can we get it right? They've got a big music
they
list, to
do,
be fair, for a lot of the cities. So I
they
think they
do,
put a lot of
they do.
investment into that to like have it well rounded. Which you got to do that.
Yes. I agree, I agree. I can sometimes have brand sensitivity, and with that, even with the clients that I work with, I'm always fan focused, always thinking of the fan. I put myself in their shoes, and I wanna make sure that they have the best experience in the world, and sometimes I can be very vocal about it, but, what fun is it if you don't stand for something, then, you just go by for anything and everything, but that's just who I am, but I still appreciate you, Andrew, you know that. Agree
100%.
to
Yeah, and like you
disagree.
said, it's like with New York, it's like you expect a lot out of it, right? You want like they should be, reaching the heights. So yeah, well, again, I'll see. I think it's still going to be, as a fan, like, just given the energy, the passion people have, the layout. You talk about within the city, and then a lot of even the towns in North Jersey, there is like a center to town where people are going to gather, and they're going to be there with their flags, and there's going to be TVs rolled out onto the sidewalk, or people watching in bodegas and everywhere. Like, I think it's really going to be an awesome experience. And there's so
Yes.
many ways you can enjoy the tournament.
I love that, I love that, and I'm supposed to be there as well for the game, so I will be in one of the corporate
You
suites,
got that
and
final
so
ticket? Did somebody gift you that $2 million ticket, Jamie? You're going to be sitting on the bench with the winning team. You're the first one who gets to raise a trophy. I think that's what that 2 million goes towards.
yeah, my ticket was not that pricey. So I think whomever that person is, I will hopefully be able to take a picture of them. But no, that is not my ticket. But let's talk about a little bit about ATL before
Yes,
we
let's do it.
end. Would you let's do it? You ready? Okay,
Yeah.
let's do it. Let's do it. ATL, because I'm from the South, I love, love, love what I have seen ATL Atlanta due in the last 8 months. Like, as of this recording, it's May, and what we've seen even in 2025, just the grassroots of Atlanta. Atlanta hosted the 1996 Olympics, where I actually went to the 1996 Olympics.
Oh, awesome.
My yes, my mom and my stepdad, they actually did a little work, my yes. So, yes, for the
Just
Olympics, which
carrying the
was
torch, like, pun intended, right? Carrying on, Jamie. Yeah.
yes. I tell people I am a second generation C-suite marketer. Mama was the vice president of Holiday Inn back in the '80s and the
Wow. Okay.
'90s. So It's in my blood, like, the marketing is in my blood, but not only is the marketing in my blood, the actual in real life events, because we went to, like, a lot of grand openings, I
Mhm.
saw the behind the scenes with mom, and so that part, to experience that part, that's always been the love that I've had, and so that's why I've decided to focus on that part of marketing because marketing is so big, it's so vast, as you know, even with sports, there's so many intricacies inside of sports that sometimes it's just better to, focus on one part and claim it as your own. And that's what I do for experiential marketing, although it changes names all the time. But yeah, it's in my blood, passing the torch. Mama gave it to me. She's
There we
retired
go.
now.
Yep.
And now it's mine, Drew.
Awesome. So cool.
Yeah. So tell me about I've heard that Atlanta has an emerging soccer market. Do you want to share a little bit about that? And I
Yeah,
think you may
so
have a
so
video.
Atlanta is now officially the new home of US soccer, right? So, you're talking about your FIFAs. Well, US soccer, it's got the US Soccer Federation is, the organizational body that runs everything at like a national level. So the national teams and all that. So they just recently moved to Atlanta. A lot of that comes from Arthur Blank, owner of the Falcons. He's also done a lot to invest in Atlanta United. But you've got this, not only now officially US soccer, but as this video that Jamie is playing, places like Silverbacks Park, you have this really strong grassroots community. And similar to the Bay Area, it's like it's big, but it's still connected. Like there's still enough. I think the big thing that stuck out to me about Atlanta,